Government member take a call on.
I'm going to call. I'll have the other doctor, Dr. David Clark.
Very kind, Mr. Chair.
It's Doctor's Day.
Thank you for the call. Of course, we should reiterate that Labor opposes this bill, and a lot of the reasons come down to the fact that this is privatisation by stealth, effectively, of the sector. It undermines the quality assurance that we've become used to. It undermines the ITO restructure which is being bedded in. And to my mind, Part 2 really does get to that issue when it comes down to the annual registration fee and prescribing of quality assurance requirements. This is the nuts and bolts. This is where rubber hits road, and this is where we ask what the value add of NZQA is, where we ask whether the regulatory oversight was adequate for industry training. And let's ask ourselves, what would happen if there was no fee? What would happen if there was no quality assurance in the sector? And I think what we all know is that that would not be a desirable situation for New Zealand. We already witness a lack of workforce training, and we see it in Christchurch, where there is a real skills shortage for an urgently needed rebuild, a lost opportunity, and we see it in many places around New Zealand. I think for myself in Dunedin, where we know that only 45% of the nurses that trained last year were in positions where they could further train and get their practical skills training because the government didn't have in place a channel for them to carry on in their studies. They didn't have work placement. And that tells you that this government has not got a priority on proper workforce training, on pathways into the workforce. Likewise with medical students, 280 medical students trained for 100 places, we're told. There are some real pipeline issues here, and they are not being looked out for by this government. It's kind of everyone signs up and let the market decide at the end. Well, it's not working because young New Zealanders are following their passions and they do not have the necessary information always to make a decision about what the future workforce needs are. That's the role of government to assist with that process, to make sure that New Zealanders are training for the future benefit of this country, and that also means that they've then appropriately trained to make the most of their skills so they earn a decent living to better their own lives and the lives of those around them. But here we have in this bill, we have the assurance that there will be a fee charged, and we have the assurance that there will be some level of industry oversight, but we need to ask whether it's adequate. And we, on this side of the House, contend that this move, which is going ahead, really is not adequate. It's not forward-looking enough. We've seen it in the track record of the government with the drop in the number of modern apprentices over the last 5 years and the 37% drop in the number of industry trainees. Can you have any of the vision for a better education sector, for a better future for New Zealand? Can you have the kind of opportunity for all New Zealanders that Labor would want if you don't have a proper ITO sector? And this bill, unfortunately, is a step backwards, because what it does is to remove the skills leadership function from the purpose of the ITOs. And without that skill leadership function, without that oversight, nobody really is looking out for the bigger picture. Labor is committed to ensuring that New Zealand does have the skilled workforce it needs, and we're committed to making sure that the shortage of skilled tradespeople in New Zealand is addressed, and that means investing in apprenticeships and industry training. That means making sure that this annual registration fee is going the right way, as the funding that comes out of the sector to support quality assurance, that supports appropriate workforce training, is directed in the right area. And you know, the question I posed at the beginning of my contribution, Mr. Chair, was what if there was no fee? What if there was no quality assurance? And this is the track that we seem to be heading down, and that is the concern that I have. I am concerned that if we don't have proper oversight, if we don't have a skills leadership function, that we will end up in a situation where we have loads and loads and loads of some professions of which we already have too many, that are more accessible. And we know, for example, that we train in New Zealand far too many hairdressers. We need hairdressers. Hairdressers are good people. I don't need a hairdresser, but many people do. Many people do. But we only need so many hairdressers. And there has got to be skills leadership around choosing just which people we need.
I call Carol Beaumont.
Very much, Mr. Chair. So this is obviously a very small part of what is a very significant bill, as I added in my earlier contribution.